What if the child you buried was never really gone? Sometimes the dead don't stay dead, and the truth is far darker than any nightmare you've ever known.
It had been 6 months since Sarah buried her son, Noah. 6 months of endless nights, where every shadow in the house seemed to whisper his name. She'd moved through each day like a ghost herself, paying bills, going to work, eating meals she couldn't taste, just waiting for the moment she could sleep and dream of him again. That Sunday afternoon, the wind was colder than usual. Sarah carried a small bouquet of daisies and Noah's favorite teddy bear as she walked up the gravel path toward his grave. The cemetery was empty, except for the sound of leaves crunching under her boots. She knelt at the headstone, brushing away fallen leaves, her fingers tracing his name carved into the cold stone. "Hey, baby, Mommy's here," she whispered, placing the teddy bear gently against the stone. But then she heard it, the faint sound of footsteps, not behind her, but in front of her. Sarah's breath caught. Slowly, she lifted her head. There, at the far end of the cemetery, half hidden by mist, stood a little boy, barefoot, soaking wet, staring straight at her. Her heart pounded in her ears. The boy looked exactly like Noah. She blinked hard, tears burning her eyes. But when she looked again, he was gone. Sarah couldn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that boy standing in the mist, looking at her like he'd been waiting. By 2 a.m., she was sitting in her kitchen, staring at the cold cup of coffee in her hands. Her mind kept replaying the scene at the cemetery. It wasn't him. It can't be him, she whispered to herself. But the more she tried to convince herself, the more she felt that deep, aching certainty in her chest. It was Noah. The old wall clock ticked loudly. The house felt colder than usual. And then her phone rang. The sound sliced through the silence, making her jump. She glanced at the screen. No number, just the words, "Unknown caller." Her hands trembled as she answered. "Hello?" At first there was only static. Then a small, trembling voice whispered, "Mommy, I'm cold." Sarah's coffee mug slipped from her hands and shattered on the floor. Her breath came in sharp gasps. "Noah?" she cried into the phone, but the line had gone dead. Sarah sat frozen in her kitchen chair, the phone still pressed to her ear even though the call had ended. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. "It's not possible. Noah is gone," she kept whispering. But then, a faint sound broke through her thoughts. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming from the dark hallway that led to Noah's old bedroom. Sarah's eyes darted toward the hallway entrance. The shadows seemed darker than before. She stood up slowly, her bare feet making no sound on the cold kitchen tiles. The footsteps continued, each one sending a shiver down her spine. Her mind screamed to run, but something inside pushed her forward. She took one step, then another, the creak of the old wooden floorboards answering back. When she reached Noah's door, she noticed it was slightly open. That was impossible. She had locked it months ago, unable to bear seeing his things. Her trembling hand reached for the doorknob. She pushed the door open, and the room was empty, completely still. But on the floor, in the pale moonlight streaming through the window, lay a single, small footprint, wet, like a child had walked in from the rain. Sarah's breath came in short, shaky bursts as she stared at the tiny footprint. Her mind raced for explanations. Maybe it was her imagination. Maybe she was losing her grip on reality. But then, "Mommy?" The word was faint, almost like a whisper, but it was clear. A child's voice. Sarah's entire body went cold. She turned toward the sound. It had come from the corner of the room, where the moonlight didn't reach. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. "Noah? Sweetheart? Is that you?" Silence. She took another step, and the wooden floor groaned under her weight. That's when she saw it. Something small,
pale and still standing in the shadows. Her breath caught. The figure didn't move. "Noah, please?" she whispered, her voice breaking. Then, in one sudden, jarring motion, the figure stepped forward, revealing a soaked, shivering boy with Noah's eyes. But his face was ghostly pale, and there was something wrong about his smile. "You found me, Mommy," he said softly, and before Sarah could move, the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness. The darkness swallowed the room, and Sarah's heart hammered in her chest. She could still hear the faint drip of water hitting the wooden floor, and the soft, rhythmic breathing of the boy in front of her. Her trembling fingers searched for the lamp switch. Click. The light flared back on, and Sarah's blood ran cold. The boy was still there, but now she could see him clearly. His skin was too pale, almost translucent. Veins crawled like thin blue rivers under the surface, and his eyes, they were Noah's shape and color, but the warmth was gone. They were unblinking, empty. Sarah's voice cracked. Where did you come from?" The boy tilted his head, slowly, unnaturally. His lips curled into that same wrong smile. "I've been here the whole time, Mommy." Sarah stepped back, her pulse deafening in her ears. The boy's wet footprints were spreading across the floor, but they didn't stop at the doorway. They trailed up the wall. Before Sarah could scream, the boy's body twitched, and with a jerking, spider-like motion, he began climbing toward the ceiling. Sarah stumbled backward until her legs hit the edge of the bed. Her breath came in short, panicked bursts. The boy, or whatever wore Noah's face, hung upside down from the ceiling, its neck twisted too far, its eyes locked on hers. A single droplet of water fell from its hair and splashed onto her hand. It was ice cold. Then it spoke. "You can see him again, Mommy." Sarah froze. "See who?" she whispered, though deep down she already knew. "Noah." The word echoed unnaturally, as though a second, deeper voice spoke with it. "He's waiting, but you have to come now." From the ceiling, a thin, pale hand reached down toward her. Its nails were black, cracked, and far too long. Sarah's heart twisted, because for a split second, she swore she heard Noah's laugh, the real one, soft and innocent. "Take my hand," the thing urged. "I'll take you to him." Sarah's vision blurred with tears. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but the part of her that still ached for her son almost made her reach out. Sarah's fingers hovered inches from the outstretched hand. Her whole body shook. Fear, grief, and a dangerous spark of hope tangled together. "Noah," she breathed. The boy's twisted head tilted, a slow, unnatural motion, and the faintest smile curved on his lips. Behind that smile, something hungry waited. Finally, Sarah's trembling hand touched his. The moment their skin met, the room exploded into darkness. It wasn't just the lights going out. It was as if every ounce of air, every sound, every color had been pulled away, leaving nothing but an infinite black void. Sarah's stomach lurched. She was falling or floating. She couldn't tell. Then she landed. Not in her bedroom, not anywhere she recognized. She was standing in a narrow hallway. The walls were damp, rotting, peeling with dark mold. Water dripped from the ceiling in slow, heavy drops, echoing unnaturally loud. And at the end of that hallway, a small figure, a little boy, his back turned to her, shoulders shaking as if he was quietly crying. "Noah?" Sarah's voice broke. The boy stopped. Slowly, his head began to turn, but not like a human head should. It kept turning and turning until it faced her completely, without his body moving at all. And that's when she saw it. Those were Noah's eyes, but the smile on his face did not belong to any child.
Sarah's knees almost buckled under the weight of that smile. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Noah, is that really you?" The boy's mouth opened, and at first no sound came, only a soft hiss, like steam escaping a broken pipe. Then, in a voice that was both Noah's and something far older, far colder, came the words, "Mommy, you didn't save me." Sarah's heart wrenched. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I tried. God, I tried." But the boy shook his head slowly. "You left me there, in the dark." Her breathing quickened. The hallway seemed to stretch longer, the shadows growing thicker with every heartbeat. From behind Noah, something began to move. Tall, jagged, shifting shapes like twisted limbs unfolding from the blackness. "They took me, Mommy, and now?" The boy's lips curled into that wrong smile again. "They want you too." Before Sarah could scream, the lights above burst. The jagged shadows lunged forward, swallowing Noah whole, and then they were coming for her. Sarah's instinct screamed run. Her bare feet slapped against the cold, damp floor as she bolted down the hallway, shadows clawing at her heels, the sound of whispers chasing her. She didn't dare look back. Every step felt like she was sinking deeper into a nightmare that had no end. Up ahead, a door, old, wooden, paint peeling but glowing faintly around the edges, like light was seeping from the cracks. She lunged for the handle. Cold metal burned her skin. The voices behind her rose to a deafening hiss. "You can't leave, Sarah. You belong here now." She shoved the door open. Blinding white lights spilled out, swallowing the shadows. For a moment she was weightless. Her chest heaved as she stepped into the brightness, trembling. The air smelled clean, like rain after a storm. And there, in the middle of the empty white room, was a chair. On it, a single object. Her son's teddy bear. Its head slowly turned toward her, and then it spoke. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. That teddy bear. It was the same one she buried with her son 2 years ago. Her trembling fingers reached out, almost touching its worn fur, when it suddenly spoke again. "Mommy, it's cold here." Her knees buckled. The voice. It was his. Every syllable was the exact tone, the same lisp he had when he was 4. Tears streamed down her face. "Ethan? Baby, is that you?" The teddy bear's head tilted. "You have to come with me, or I can't go." Her heart pounded. The light in the room began to dim, shadows crawling up the walls. The air turned ice cold. Sarah stepped closer. "Where are you, Ethan?" she whispered. The bare-stitched mouth twisted into something unnatural, and in a voice that was no longer her son's, it growled, "Right behind you." Sarah spun around, and the door was gone. The white room was gone. She was standing in the same hallway she'd tried to escape, only now every door was open, and in each doorway stood something watching her. The last thing she heard, before the light went out completely, was her son's laughter.